Hello, hello. We're back at it. It's Jessica and Vanessa, and we're talking about our favorite subject.
Yes, kids, parenting. Kidding. No, yes.
Yeah, all of it. It is. We always talk about it. And we've been sitting here talking, and we had this thought about we sometimes go on autopilot.
Like what?
Eek.
Yeah. So we were saying that it's easy, to go on autopilot one because one of the things that my husband says that I think it's hilarious, but I think that it's so true. He says it's hard to parent the you out of your kid. That's how, not he'll. I'm sure that he'll probably correct me.
So good.
And it's so true. And a lot of the time, it's like we don't even check our own selves. We don't change the things that we don't like about ourselves because we don't even notice it. We're oblivious to it. But however, when that kid snaps right back at you and just has that attitude or that I don't want to do that or why should I or all these, these qualities and attributes that we have, we right away we see it and it's hard. It's hard to deal with them, So the easiest thing to do is say, you know what, put your shoes on. I got to drop you off at school, pick you up, time for dinner. Mom, it's time for bed. Mom, it's 5:30. It's okay. You need your sleep, because it's just so easy to just get on that autopilot and not have to deal with life, not have to deal with parenting. However, one of the things that if you didn't listen to the previous podcast, please go listen to it because we have a very short, limited a time where we have to feel put, tools in our children. So when they leave off, they know how to handle, this world. And we have to only do that when we're being off on autopilot and being proactive in our children's lives. So we're going to talk today about what does that actually look like?
Yes. First of all, I feel like you just called you have a little camera in my house. You've been watching me struggle. It's so easy. It's so easy to just live in that stress of whatever, just get the kids to school, then I can breathe. I'm going to go to work and do my thing. Everybody just go, and check off the list without being intentional.
Yes.
And our parenting, it does. If you want to be a good parent, and I've taught parenting classes for over 10 years, you too, if you want to be a good parent, it's really not about the tool or the thing that you're going to learn that day, but it's really about being present and being an intentional, waking up and going, today is going to be so hard. I mean, I'm potty training. That's hard. Oh. And I have a 14-year-old. Hard, different hards, but
yeah.
Both hard. And I have to come to the table every day and say, God, how do I do this intentionally?
Yeah.
And then you said a good quote, and I'm probably going to step on some toes here, but you said, what Joe says is we have to learn how to parent the you out of your kid. Well, what if, and I'm going to close my eyes, don't feel offended. What if you don't know how to parent your spouse out of your kid?
Oh, dang.
Well, that's part of that blended family. When I married my husband made a decision to take on me. I am a full wrecking ball. I'm just going to tell you, I bring a lot to the table, a lot of emotions, a lot of attitude. I was a very stubborn child. I've learned, I'm probably still a stubborn adult, but I've learned that there are great sides to being stubborn, right? Well, my husband made the conscious choice to marry me with those characteristics. Unbeknownst, maybe he unconsciously, I don't know, but he also made a choice to marry my son, who also carries those characteristics. Yes. And maybe it's easy to love me because, I can make you feel good, but can you still love my kid?
Yes.
When my kid carries the worst parts of me too. Big. That's part of that. You can't go on autopilot with that. That's not gonna help the situation if you kind of check out of parenting because it's too hard.
Yeah. And let's go even further. Okay. Parent your spouse. What about the spouse that you didn't choose to be in bed with?
We're stepping on all the toes today. I know
It's like, what?
I think we need to close out in prayer today. Make sure everybody. It's true. It's so true. And and how do we do that? You
Yeah.
can't check out. You can't
No.
check out because you're mad at the child for what they're bringing in from their other home. It's so easy to do. And let me give everybody a little bit of grace here. If you have that thought like this is too much today, that's normal.
Yes.
Like, let me give you some grace. That's a normal thought. You are allowed to think that thought in your head. You are allowed to take that thought to Jesus because that is a normal thought. Like,
Yes.
I did not marry that.
That's right. I'm like, I'll put both
But
hands.
then what are you going to do? Right.
Yes.
But then
And,
what are you going to do?
and I think that that's important because, like in the other podcast, and I'm going to keep referring to it, we were talking about that it's easy to love, and I'm going to butcher it again because I don't really remember what it says, but the only part that I remember is that it's easy to love, Jesus, but where we really see testimony is how do you love Judas? And I think that it's important because you are literally the blueprint to your children in the way that they're going to parent, in the way that they're going to mold their kids, in the way that they're going to go into their family. Brandon told me something the other day that I was like, oh man, that really hit home. He said, Mom, I have to cut this curse. And from his dad's side, he goes, I have to pay the price so my kids don't have to pay the price. And I'm just like, wow. So if we are us as parents, as adults, don't pay the price to learn these tools, then guess who's going to have to pay the price to learn them for your grandkids? Your kids are, because you didn't teach it to them. So they're going to have to learn it somewhere, and they're going to have to learn it the hard way. Do we really want that for our grandkids? Do we really want that for our kids? That they have to just figure it out, blind, like be blind? Like, how do I love? How do I respect? How do I treat other people? How do I forgive? How do I, deal with hard situations and still have faith? How do I believe the good, even if in the worst case scenario? How do I do all these
Yeah.
things? And being proactive is you teaching and giving those tools to your kids. And if you do not do that, your kids are going to suffer for it, and they're going to have to learn it as an adult trying to
Yeah.
figure it out. And if you say, okay, Vanessa, well, I don't even know what that looks like. I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, what tools? Like, that was not even in my register.
Yeah.
So God says, okay, no problem. First time, it's okay. Like, there's no shame. Now that
Yeah.
you have the information and you're not doing anything about it, now we have a problem because now we know. So now we can do something about it. And this is not just you guys. This is me. This is also Jess. This is,
Yes.
Joe. This is, her husband. Like, all of us here, like, have been through things. Like, I was such a negative parent. I was the yelling parent. I was the parent that you're like, you didn't meet my standards. What the heck is wrong with you? How
Yeah.
did you not know and read my mind that I wanted you to do it X, Y, and Z? How did you not know that? Like, do you not read minds? you know,
Yes.
and and it's sad because here you have all my kids like feeling like they're not good enough, feeling like, dang, I failed again. But it's because I didn't know how to communicate what I needed. I didn't know how to communicate what I wanted. And I didn't know how to give grace because I didn't even give grace to myself. Because just as
Yeah.
hard as I was on them, I was hard on myself as well. So we have to be able to know that even through this process, as we are, teaching our kids, God is also restoring us from the traumas that we went through. God is also working on our stuff. So
Yes.
God is not just like one minded and one way doing things. Like, no, he's restoring and he's doing all kinds of things that you don't even know. But you just have to step into faith, and you just have to uncross your hands, and you just have to do one step
Yes.
at. And it's okay if you don't feel good. It's okay if you sit there and you feel that thought. Like you said, it's normal. Okay. But are you going to sit there for a day or two or three or four or five?
Yes.
How many days? How many days are you going to waste? You said something so awesome in one of our parenting classes. You said you put a big old calendar. I don't know if you remember. And you put, how
Yeah.
many did you say we have with our kids?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's a lot. From the
Yeah.
time they're born, we have a lot of time with them.
Yes.
But
And
then,
it narrows down. And then
yeah,
by the time they're teens, you have so many Fridays with them.
it's
So
like
many.
50 or something.
Yeah.
It's like crazy when you think about Friday nights because they're so busy with sports and stuff. And like that time investment is so much shorter.
Yeah. And it's just like, so you have 50 and you're going to spend 20 on them on autopilot.
Yeah. And I think maybe there might be somebody out there saying, like, well, what does autopilot mean? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like autopilot is like you're just going to make sure that the basic needs are met. They're at school, they've got food, they've got clothes. Okay, they're good. I can't do anything else. And there's just too many resources out there. There's 1,055,000 podcasts, teaching opportunities. There's churches now that want to help you do families better, do parenting better, do blended
Mhm.
families better. That we have to get out of just meeting the bare minimum.
Mhm.
And I kept hearing you talk, and I kept thinking about that. Holy Spirit, activate. Holy Spirit, activate. Because that's like almost the chant in the morning when I am like dealing with the raging teenager and the toddlers at the same time. And I'm like, Holy Spirit, activate, because I want to be an intentional parent. Help me to take the mundane things, the things that I go on autopilot for, and make them about you. So
Yeah.
our ride to school in the morning, I got to ride to school every day in the morning, but we make it about Jesus. We talk about what are we thankful for some days it's like, what's going on? Some days I'm only talking to my teenager in the front because we got to, open up some of the things that some of the topics that only me and him need to talk about. We're
Mhm.
listening. What music are you listening to on the way to school? That's a very simple thing that we
Yeah.
forget about because we want to listen to our favorite music, but our kids need to learn some Jesus chants, some like positive music to be chanting throughout their day. And if that's all you do is just switch it to a positive Christian music, that's an intentional impact you're making on your kid.
Yeah.
Let alone teaching them how to pray. I had to learn that even though I was going through hell and high water with Ethan's dad and everything was falling apart, and then the next relationship I was in was a mess, and Ethan was watching all this, I learned to just ask Ethan. Ethan would say, "What's wrong with you?" And I'd say, I could have said,
Mhm.
"Nothing. Everything's fine. Mom's good." But I learned somewhere, somehow to say, I'm not having a good day. I didn't dump my problems on him. I didn't say, he's a jerk and he did this to me, right? No, I had enough wisdom to say, I don't feel good, but will you pray for me? And my
Wow.
son would pray for me from the back seat. And it's like a one-liner, Mommy, help, or Dear Jesus, help mommy feel better. But
Good.
how does that not make you feel better?
Yeah.
And those are those like intentional moments. You're living real life, raw, exposed, but I'm not dumping my drama on my kid. I'm learning to take those small moments and make them intentional. And then I started getting into parenting books and teaching parenting and being a resource because it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to find knowledge of how to parent. And then the next part is that Holy Spirit activate part where you're like, Holy Spirit, now activate that in my life. And
Mhm.
here's the thing. I fail often, Vanessa. And I tell my kids, I fail often. They see my attitudes, they see my hurts, my habits, my hangups. But we have intentional moments and we live authentically, open and exposed. I show them the hurts. I show them where I go with my hurts. I go to Jesus. I
Mhm.
open my Bible every morning and I sit at my kitchen table because I don't want to do it in private. I want my kids to see me where my resources. That's an intentional thing. So there are small intentional things that you can begin to apply to your life that makes you an intentional parent.
Yes. Yes. So being an intentional. And I think that this week, regardless of whether it's, going to the seminar this weekend or, being able to listen to a podcast or telling your kids, hey, did you brush your teeth this morning? Telling your kids like, did you take your vitamins? Did you buy your kids vitamins? If they're not
Yeah.
eating all their food groups, just all of those things, this week, make yourself a to-do list and just be a little bit more intentional. Put two things on there, whatever it is. Have you hugged your kids enough this week? Have you loved on your kids? Have you told your kids, what? Like you are actually someone special. You are amazing. You have amazing qualities. or did you yell at them the whole week? Like there has to be a balance, guys. So let's do 3 positive, attributes or qualities that you're going to tell them that week. Make sure you give extra hugs, or, give them 1 kiss out of the whole week. And you say, man, Vanessa, that's kind of harsh. No, sometimes we don't, because it's true. We're on autopilot. We're in a rush. So
Yeah.
be intentional, and God's going to see your effort, and he's going to double it. And we're going to be here to
Yes.
pray for you, and just to hang out and, do life together.
Yes. And use your tools. I want to close out by offering the tool that we have April 29th. That's this weekend. We have a parenting conference for blended families. If you're a single parent dating with kids, if you're blending a family, if only one of you has kids, all the potluck reasons of why you might be in a blended family. Come get registered. You can register at cornerstonefresno.com. It's an all-day seminar. You're going to learn the tools. Then you can get off autopilot and start putting them into practice, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
All right. We'll see you there, hopefully.
Bye, guys.
Bye.